Today we're going to be covering the top 10 insomnia myths that could be keeping you awake at night. Let's jump in. So myth number one is that you must get 8 hours of sleep every night. Okay, and the truth is that most healthy adults only actually sleep between 5.5 to 7 hours, even if they don't have any sleep issues. The thing is when they interview these people and they ask them how much they think they sleep, they usually say, oh, about 8 hours, But when they actually put people on machines to test them, or they do sleep studies, they find out that actually this is the case. So big problem with insomnia, I see this almost every single person I talk to, is that they're worried that something's going to happen to them if they're not getting 8 hours of sleep. And the truth is that the 8 hours of sleep idea came during the Industrial Revolution, when the 8-hour work week was invented, and they just decided, hey, well, we should do 8 hours of work, 8 hours of sleep. Just made sense. So that's ultimately where it comes from. It doesn't actually have any basis in anything real. And there's even some studies that say if you sleep 8 hours or more, you have a higher all-cause mortality rate. So the whole thing is screwed up. The point of it is all that, get as many hours as you can, and definitely don't overstress about the 8 hours thing. Myth number two, if you can't sleep, you must try harder or try more. So we know that trying to make ourselves sleep is actually impossible, because sleep is a process that happens when we're tired enough and we have no mental stress keeping our brains alert. It's something that happens outside of our control, which is a really good thing, because one less thing to worry about, right? So a much more effective strategy is to focus on things you enjoy and distracting yourself from trying to make yourself sleep, because then you can facilitate the process to happen on its own. Myth number three, insomnia is caused by a physical problem you just haven't found yet. So this is another really common thing. People are just really confused about what's going on, and they're afraid it's some type of a disease, or a melatonin imbalance, or a hormone imbalance. And, not to say that maybe those things are real, but in most cases, insomnia is driven by fear, hyperarousal, sleep anxiety, and not some type of a crazy hidden disease. And it can also be caused by trying to go to bed too early before you're actually tired. That's a very common thing. People say, like, okay, I didn't sleep too well yesterday, let me try to go to bed early today, and then they can't fall asleep because they're not tired yet, and then they're wondering why they can't sleep, and then it starts the whole snowball process. Myth number four, sleeping pills are a long-term solution. So nothing can actually create sleep besides our body's natural processes. So no amount of sleeping pills will ever create sleep, but what they do is they temporarily sedate the body and the mind with chemicals, which then just allows sleep to happen on its own. So they basically get you out of your own way. But if we do not address the underlying sleep anxiety or the structure that we've set around our sleep window, then sleeping pills are just a band-aid solution. And what usually happens is it works to get you to fall asleep, but then when you wake up in the middle of the night, people don't want to, of course, take another sleeping pill, because then you're going to be super tired the next day. So they wake up in the middle of the night, now they can't get back to sleep, and now they have a problem where they're confused because they took the sleep pill thinking that it was going to make them fall asleep throughout the whole night, because they think that the pill is what's creating sleep. But it's really just calming you down so that sleep happens on its own. But then ultimately when you wake up, if you don't know what to do to get back to sleep, the sleeping pills don't help, and then it just makes the problem worse, because now you're confused. And that's just and then the worry comes in, like, what's wrong with me? Why did the pills work sometimes, not work other times? And the cool thing is, like, when you understand sleep, you can still use a sleeping pill if that's what you want to do. but you got to do it as like a self-love act, right? Like as a way of helping yourself kind of facilitate sleep, but not as a like a cure-all, right? If you just take it and that's your intention, like this is the one thing I'm putting all my faith in this one pill to make me sleep, it's not going to work. Myth five, I had this issue majorly. You need a perfect sleep environment to sleep well. Now, while comfort is obviously a good thing, sleep can happen on its own regardless of external factors. And when your sleep drive is high enough, you can literally fall asleep anywhere, even driving a car. Like there's no actual thing that makes sleep, there's no like external factor that can stop it from happening. So the more you obsess about light and temperature and bedding and glasses and all these different things, they actually just are forms of control. And the more that we try to control our sleep, the harder it is to get that sleep. It's all about letting go of the control. Now, once you know that, sure, you can design your bed, design your room how you want. But if you are doing the designs not because it makes you happy and more comfortable, but if you're like, okay, I'm gonna make my room this temperature, even though I'm freezing cold, but I read online that this is gonna help me sleep, so I'm gonna do it. Right? That's a sleep effort, and that's gonna cause the insomnia to continue. Myth number six is that if you've had insomnia for years, that you're stuck with it forever. But the good news is that we never actually lose our ability to sleep. We just get in our own way. And even long-term insomnia can heal when people shift their mindset, their behaviors, and their relationship with sleep. Thank goodness. Okay, this was another issue I used to have. Tracking sleep too closely with things like Fitbits and Oura Rings will help you fix insomnia. The problem is that over monitoring sleep makes insomnia worse because now we're more obsessed about another factor, which actually doesn't matter. Now we're focusing on what's this score that I'm going to get from this device that supposedly knows everything about how well I'm sleeping, right? And what ends up happening is you wake up in the morning, you feel really good, you think, dang, I got a good night's sleep, my score is going to be really high. And then you go and check it, and it says like a 10% or some ridiculous number. And the truth from what I've seen is that the accuracy of these devices is not 100%. And really, we're just going off of faith of what the companies are telling us. And to me, how you feel when you wake up in the morning and how your energy is and whatnot is a much better indicator than a theoretical number from an electronic device that supposedly is reading your body signs or whatever it's doing, And so, they might be really accurate, I don't know, but the problem is whether they're accurate or not, they can still stress you out. And even if you did really good and you had a good night of sleep that you should celebrate, the ring tells you otherwise, you're going to get upset at yourself and it's going to perpetuate insomnia. So definitely not a fan of sleep trackers. Plus, there's a lot of, you know, people wonder about having electronics on your body while you sleep. Is that good or bad? Who knows? The main thing is if you got insomnia and you're trying to get control of your anxiety and things, it's probably best to do without the sleep trackers. Myth number 8, you should always make up for lost sleep by napping or sleeping in. Now, oversleeping during the day can weaken your natural sleep drive and make nighttime even harder to fall asleep because we have to be awake for at least 17 hours before we're tired enough to fall asleep at night. Now, a way you can kind of get around this, if you do need to take a nap, if you keep the nap under 20 minutes, then it tends to give you, a boost of energy, but not really affect how you're going to feel later that night. So that's kind of a rule that I like to have. But if you are sleeping in too much or taking too many naps, then ultimately when it comes time to go to bed, you're probably not going to have that physical tiredness, which is okay. You just have to wait a little bit longer for it to kick in. Same thing with caffeine. If you have caffeine late in the day, yeah, you might not feel tired at your normal time, but that's okay because once you enter the sleep window, you don't have to go to bed immediately. You just have to do the things like, you don't want to be checking the time and you want to be doing the things that you enjoy. And so if you're not quite tired yet, I don't mind that because then it's like, okay, I can just get some extra work done. And I know eventually I'm going to have that tiredness come upon. And when it happens, it happens. And then I just go lay down and it's no big deal. So that's just something to think about. Myth number 9 is that only people with insomnia struggle with sleep. But the truth is, everyone has nights of poor sleep. It's just how we react to that determines whether or not it turns into insomnia. And usually people have one bad night and or let's say something like happens in your life, a big stress comes in and you start having some trouble sleeping. That's totally normal. And usually that will resolve itself and then you go back to sleeping normally. What usually happens with insomnia is that we have this rough time in our lives or something happens that messes up our sleep for a certain amount of time. And then we start to worry about it. And we start to get afraid, is this going to be permanent? Or why am I not sleeping like I used to? Right? And then of course it leads to sleep efforts. Then we try to do things to fix it. It doesn't work. Now we're trying other things and it just builds the whole snowball of insomnia, right? But the truth is that everyone has poor nights of sleep, okay? And most insomniacs think that like something is really, really wrong with them because they're having poor sleep. And it's true, yeah, if you're having it for a long time, yeah, okay, we got to address a problem. But every once in a while, or if you have something stressful happen in your life that messes up your sleep, that's totally normal. And so there's no reason to freak out. And myth number 10 is, did I mess this up? I'll just leave it. If you can't fall asleep in 20 minutes, that you should leave your bed. So this is something that comes from CBTI. And basically what they say is, you should only associate the bed with sleep. And if it's been longer than 20 minutes, get out of the bed and go do something, right? The problem is that if you're trying to monitor how long it's been since, between the time you get to bed and the time you go to sleep, that self-monitoring is going to make falling asleep very difficult. Plus, you have to be checking the time to know how long it's been. So it violates 2 rules. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like, if you fall asleep in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, as long as you fall asleep, that's what matters. All right? So obsessively tracking how long it takes you to fall asleep is a big problem in itself. And then ultimately, even if you can't fall asleep, you don't have to leave your bed unless you want to. And it's far more important to do something you enjoy and avoid looking at the time, whether or not you decide to stay in or out of your bed. So I knew a gentleman I talked to who if he couldn't fall asleep in 20 minutes, he would go out into the living room, force himself to sit in a wooden chair and watch the same movie over and over again. And I asked him, I was like, do you even like the movie? He said, oh no, I hate it, but I do that on purpose to try and make myself bored so that I'll fall asleep. It's like, man, that is like a recipe for never getting your sleep right. Like, that's a recipe for suffering.
Yeah.
But he thought that was what he was supposed to be doing. And to this day, he still hasn't got his sleep right. I'm still trying to get him in the program, but
Wow.
yeah. So anyway, the leave your bed in 20 minutes rule. I only like it if you're leaving your bed to go do something that you like to do. You want to do that? That's fine. But to do it just as a hard rule for no other reason than to just not be in your bed, I don't think it's a good idea. And that's my 10 myths. Awesome. So I hope you learned a lot in that video. If you're someone who's been struggling with insomnia and you're looking for a way out, then I suggest you click the link in the description and book a one-on-one call with me. On this call, we'll go over the struggles you've been having with sleep and ultimately put together a roadmap to help you fix your sleep problems in the next 90 days. So I look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a great day.